I like to call this video Film Photography for Dummies. Now, I don't know how, let's say you get into film photography, I don't know how. Mine was under very specific circumstances. My grandma's basically plumbing kind of just, like the pipes broke, and so sewage started leaking into the basement. I swear this is relevant. And so while I was helping cleaning out all the stuff that was damaged by the sewage water, I found an old trunk. And inside was some photography equipment. Then I started looking at it, and then I found out that there was more upstairs in my grandpa's den. I found those. And more. Then it kind of snowballed from there. And so this is what you need to know if you're going to get into film photography. Now, let's say that you inherited a camera from a family member, kind of like how I did. Then they probably had film with it, I presume. They probably had unused film. Like when I found my grandpa's camera bag, which is sitting right here, it had film with it. It's all been used up. You can use it, but I wouldn't really recommend it because depending on when they got it, the picture quality is going to look worse. The first pictures I took on film cameras were taken on film that was from that camera bag. And they looked better than the later ones that I took. I assume that my grandpa got the camera film in the 90s, and later, like much later, years later, as in this year, I took some pictures on camera film that was probably older that I got from some people who knew my grandma, and my grandma knew I liked old photography. And so then they gave her the camera film, and she gave me the camera film, and then she also had some old camera film lying around, so then I just got a bunch of camera film. That's one way to get camera film, but if you want the best quality picture you can get out of film, get them new. And yes, they still produce camera film. You can actually get it at Walmart. That's where I get my camera film. What I get is Fujifilm 400 36 exposures. And it's like, what, $20, I think, or something? That's at my Walmart, though. Every Walmart's going to be different. But, like, at my Walmart, I get it at, like, $20 or something for a 3-pack. And you can get it at Walgreens, too. You can get Kodak. But I wouldn't really recommend it because it's like $13 for literally one film canister. And camera film is going to be the same either way. So just go for Fujifilm 400 at Walmart is what I would do if I were you. So, looks like this. This I got a few months ago. Now, on the packaging, it'll say, like, expires, like, for example, it said expires in it said, develop by 2026, which is like, you don't need to use it by then, but that's the point where the best quality picture is going to start degrading. So let's just say you have 2 years before you have before you run out of time before you can get the best quality picture. Now in 2023 I got some camera film new from Walmart, and I didn't use it till 2024 when I went to Massachusetts. So like half of them I took on old film that my grandma's friend gave me, and then the other half I took on brand spanking new film because I didn't know there was a difference until I got it developed. And I will show you the difference. I just gotta get up to do that. So, And if you're going to, like, if you don't, this is what I did the first time I got unused camera film. Rolled it up unknowingly and accidentally got this stuck inside here. So I had to throw it away before I could even use it. I've lost a lot of camera film doing stupid things. So I don't recommend that you repeat the same thing. Now, every camera is going to be different. And so I would recommend that you get to know your camera a bit. And I already have film in my cameras, and so I cannot show you how to load film into a camera. So you're going to have to look that up on your own. And for this, I'll mainly be using the Pentax K1000 for reference. And that's pretty simple to load in the film. You take this, lift it up, and then it pops open. You put the film in, and I'll show you how you put it. You put it like this, stretch this across, put it in a little actually, here's what works best. You bend this over. I'm not going to do it, but you bend it over like this. And so then you slide it in, and if you bend it over like that, it'll have a much better grip. I lost an entire film canister while I was in Massachusetts because of the fact that I didn't know that. And when I was winding it up, I could just feel that I'd maybe get one exposure out of it, if I got any, because it didn't grasp firm enough. And then my dad taught me, he was like, bend that over and then slide it in so that it's going to get a better grip and you're going to have it rotate. Anyway, once you do that, then you tighten it, then you close it, and you advance 2 frames, because the first 2 frames are not going to turn out anyway, so you might as well just advance them now and get them out of the way. Now, the Pentax K1000, it has an automatic thing for telling you how many exposures you have left. And the Zeiss Icon Contaflex, which is the other camera I use the most, it does not have an automatic adjusting thing, so you'll have to do it manually. And how you do that is you simply just adjust it like this. Now I lost how many exposures I had on here. Shoot, can't remember what it was. Anyway, well, at least I demonstrated to you that. This camera, though, was the main camera that my grandpa used when he was in the Navy. Now, you've probably heard from some people that camera film can take a better picture than digital. And they're right. It allows more of a range for a better quality image and better resolution. And I remember watching a clip from Queen's performance in Montreal in 1981. And someone in the comments was saying, this looks like it was shot yesterday. And then someone replied to it saying 35mm equals 8K. Which I'm not sure if that's true. I don't think it is. But we're only starting to get like 8K resolution stuff. So if that is true, pretty soon digital will actually be able to create a better picture than film. It's already an outdated practice. So I'm kind of sad that it'll go the way of the dinosaurs pretty soon. If that is true. And it's like that performance, it wasn't shot on a digital camera. That was impossible. 1981 did not have the power to shoot video on a digital camera that clear. And so it had to be shot on a film camera. It couldn't have been anything else. Live Aid is another Queen performance where you can tell it was shot on a digital camera because the video quality looks dated, and that's because it had to be a digital camera for it to be live broadcasted all over the world. Anyway, it can take a better picture, but like I keep saying, that's only under real certain circumstances. Age of the film, that's the main one. And I'd recommend, if you're not going to, if you cannot get the Fujifilm that I use at Walmart, then go for 400. 400 works best because a lot of the time I don't need a flash when using it. But if you are going to, if you're going to use anything other than 400, or if you're going to use 400, you got to remember that most of the time when you're going to be shooting outside, you're going to need to have to turn the shutter speed down. So, now that we have the camera film aspect out of the way, you've just loaded your camera film into your camera. Now, you got to make sure your settings are all correct. You got to make sure your shutter speed is at 60, which is what you're usually supposed to use. And you'll know, for example, by this one, it's pointed at 60. And the ISO is your film speed. I use 400, so it's set to 400. Now, to turn the shutter speed, you just rotate this, but to turn the film speed, you need to lift up and rotate it. I've put it at 400. Now, for the Zeiss Icon Contaflex, it's a bit different. My shutter speed, I adjust it here on the lens. As you can see, it has been set to 60. And to adjust the shutter speed, all you got to do is move this. Or not shutter speed, film speed. You got to move this on the top. You got to pay attention to this one. Right? No, this one. Make sure that it's showing the number of, so it shows 320 and 650. Oh, no, that was right the first time. It's just from my perspective, it's mirrored. You got to make sure that it's showing like here, because I'm using 400, and so 400 is in between 320 and 650. So that's adjusted to the correct speed, to the correct film speed now. Now, first things first, you got to take off your lens cap. Boom, it's off. Now, this one has a really nice feature where it automatically, it's like I rotate this, and I'm looking in through the viewfinder, and on my right side, there's a little needle and a plus and a minus. I gotta rotate this until the little needle is in the center. It's kind of hard to see. You see on the bottom there? That's the needle. You gotta rotate this. Oh, shoot. Until it's in the center. It's in the center right now, so that'd be a good exposure. Now, with the Zeiss Icon Contaflex, for instance, it's a bit different. A little bit more complex. You flip this thing open that looks like a built-in flash. And then you rotate this thing on the top here until the little circle is over the needle. Then you look, we're using 60 shutter speed, so it'd be there. And it's not on here, meaning we're going to need either a flash or to turn our shutter speed down for a longer exposure. Which I'll show you how to use a flash later. Now, for the Pentax K1000 focusing, you just rotate this until it's in focus. Boom. It's in focus. And the same thing with the Zeiss Icon Contaflex, but it's a little bit more complex. I didn't know this until I got my first photos for it developed. But you're actually supposed to rotate the lens until the little center part is in focus with the rest of the view. I didn't know that until I got my photos developed for it, so the vast majority of them are extremely out of focus. Now, you're getting ready to take your first photo. And I have to advance the film on the Zeiss in order to look through the viewfinder. So I'll show you that after I show you this on how to use the thing. So you're ready to take your first photo on camera, or on camera film. Double check you're in focus, double check your aperture is good. You advance the film by this, and you'll know it's working if this rotates with it. It's working. And then, double check. And you press this button here. Boom. You just took your first photo. Now, for the Zeiss, it's a little bit more complex. But it's pretty much the same thing. Advance the film first, and you got to do that by rotating this. And again, notice on the top that the rewinding thing is turning. It is. Also, I never mentioned how to load film into here. It's pretty similar to the K1000, except you have to... I'm not going to do it because there's film in here, but it's like you just lift these up, rotate them, and slide it off. And then you load the film pretty similar to the K1000. Now the film is advanced, and I'm looking in, and I gotta get that little center part in focus with the rest. One thing that kind of helps to get it in focus is if there's like words, use that, or you just like if there's words in it and you're looking through, you could just read the words, but you can't really do that. There we go. It's now focused on that little container of wood glue I have over there. I can read it. And I'll show you. It's like... You see that little center point here? That needs to be in focus with the rest of it. Now, open up the exposure meter, which looks like built-in flash. And, uh-oh, we're going to need a flash for it, though. But I am going to show you a little trick. You turn your shutter speed down for the exposure. And then, now my shutter speed is at 30. I usually don't recommend you turn your shutter speed down for an exposure where you're holding it. If it's on a tripod, you're fine. But I think I can do it really still on 30, because I've taken photos on 30 like this, and it's fine. But anything lower, and it just looks blurry. So you got to be able to get really still. Now, it shows that 30 is at 2.8 on here. So I adjust this. Forgot to mention it, but you got to adjust this. That's the aperture. It's at 2.8 now, see? And then I just take my picture. And now you've taken your first picture on a little bit more of a complex camera. Now for a flash, it's a little bit different. Now this one, it's the main flash I use. I have some other flashes, but they do not have reusable bulbs. So for this one, and it is pretty similar to the other ones that do not have reusable bulbs. Except the point where you adjust your film speed, you also gotta adjust the type of bulb you're using. So first, we're using 400 film. So we adjust this thing on the side here so that it's on 400 film. See? Now, we turn it on. Actually, we slide it onto our camera first. Now, the Pentax K1000 has this automatic feature here where the flash will go off like a modern camera. But a lot of cameras, like our Zeiss, do not have that, so we're going to need a cord to get it to work with that. So you slide it on. It's on. And what was I going to say? I'm trying to think. I could have sworn I was going to say something. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be... So for a flash, you never need to adjust your film speed anything other than 60. So we're going to keep it at 60. It's at 400 film speed. And we turn it on so it's ready for our picture. Now, pretty similar principle to the without a flash. But here's what you do. On the lens, there are these markings. And if you're hearing a little, that's the flash powering up. Takes a while to power up. It's kind of like in TV shows where the main character has to power up or something. When it starts blinking, that's when you know it's powered up. Now, it says 1.5 meters on here is the distance from what I focused. So we go on here. There's a little light to press on it to show. Now, 1.8, we gotta find 1.8 meters. Huh. This thing only does up to 22. Now, I'm pretty sure I could turn my shutter speed up and it would work, but I'd prefer not to do that because I was never told how to do that. So that's something I need to learn even. So instead, I'm actually going to focus on something different other than what's literally right in front of me. How about that record hanging on my wall? There we go. That's 8 feet away. Which, darn it, this thing only goes to 10 feet. Gotta focus on something else. It'd help if my light was on. I'm gonna move my... I've done a flash photo in the dark really before. Okay, screw it. I'm just gonna not use a flash much because it's a little bit more complicated. Screw it. I'm just gonna say I'm taking a photograph of something 15 feet away, and it shows that on here. I go on here. It says to adjust it to 16 for the aperture. So I adjust it to 16, and then I advance the film. It rotated. So then Boom. Just like that. You took your first photo with a flash. Now, for using it on here, it's going to be a little bit different. I don't know why it does that when I slide it onto here specifically. That just happens. But for this one, you got to use a cord. Now, my grandpa had literally everything in his camera bag except for like a shutter activation cable, and that's really it. Gotta find it. He even had a self timer in here, which I was an idiot and I broke. So, no self timer in here anymore. I need to order a new one on eBay or something. There we go. This cord you plug into here and into here. Now, this camera does have that same port on the camera as this one, but I didn't use it because I didn't need to. The only time you would ever need to use this port, it's right here, is if you have your camera on a mount and the flash is not on here, but on another part of the mount. But other than that, you would never need to use it. I don't think. I've never needed to use it other than that. Now, using a flash here is pretty similar. Actually, it's almost the exact same. Just focus on your thing, except advance the film first. Make sure it's rotating, or the rewind thing's rotating. Focus on something far away. Okay, let's just say I'm taking a photo of something that's 10 feet away because that's all I can do on here. And so yeah, taking a photo of something 10 feet away. It says to do it at 22. It's at 22 right now, so I just snap the picture. And that was photography for dummies. Hope you enjoyed this video. Oh wait, I forgot to mention, the exposure meter thing on the Pentax K1000 does require a battery, but it's a pretty easy battery to find. It's like you can use the camera without it, but it just works best to have it, and it was a pretty easy battery to find. Do I know what type it is? No, but I was able to find it pretty easily. It's like if you looked up the battery type for the Pentax K1000, you'd be able to find it. But I will let you know some cameras will require batteries for stuff like their exposure meter, and they do not produce those batteries anymore. And it's like I have a external exposure meter in here that my grandpa had. It requires a battery, no longer produced, so I cannot use it. And this one, the Zeiss Icon Contaflex, does not require a battery at all for anything. And so yeah. Anyway, thank you for this. Oh no, I never showed you the difference between old film and new film. I gotta show you that. So I'll get up and show you. I'm sitting on my bed. And there's my dog Shaggy, who was sitting with me this whole time. Such a quiet, content dog, isn't he? Except when he sees a cat out the window. Alright, this was my vacation in Massachusetts photos, and every single one of them was taken on a manual film camera. And so, some of these have my family in it, so I'm not gonna just open it up willy-nilly. All of these were taken on the Pentax K1000. This camera. So, first of all, I'm going to show you what it was like in Plymouth. This is a picture of Plymouth, taken on film that is decades old. I do not know how old, though. Then, here's a picture of Plymouth Rock. I'll show you that one, too. Plymouth Rock, taken on film that is decades old. I'm going to be honest, you're not really missing much in Plymouth. Alright, these photos were taken on brand spanking new film bought just a year prior to the trip. Nantucket Airport. We didn't fly into Nantucket, we just went there because of the TV show Wings. So, let me show you another picture. This is the picture I usually show people when I'm talking about the difference between new film and old film. That's on new film. Isn't that so... It's such a clear photo. And I'm going to show you a different photo from the trip that will explain better the difference between new film and old film. Alright, there we go. While I was on Cape Cod, I got Michael Jackson's Thriller at an antique store. This photo was taken on old film, brand new film. You see the difference? It's like a night and day difference. Literally, it's like this photo is so much darker and not as clear of a resolution. This looks like an old photo. And this one also looks pretty bad. It was in a store called Cuffy's, which Cuffy's was a really cool store. I have a shirt somewhere that I got while I was there. Somewhere in my pile of shirts. Like, yeah, this, again, old film. But brand spanking new film. We saw a Tesla Cybertruck in Nantucket, so I had to use up 3 exposures to take pictures of. It's like I half expected to see a Tesla in my hometown before I saw a Tesla on an island with 11,000 people off the coast of Nantucket. Oh, and by the way, just like a month after I got back from the trip, I did see a Tesla Cybertruck in my hometown. Which is a town of 14,000 people. Get back in, there we go. So this was, okay, this one is an example of being taken at basically 30 shutter speed. This I accidentally had the bulb setting on when I took the picture, which is basically going to keep the, it's going to keep the shutter open until you take your finger off the button. I didn't realize the bulb setting was on, so let's just say that this was at 60, or this was at like 30 shutter speed. I didn't realize until after I took the photo that the bulb setting was on, because it went like this when it should have gone. Anyway, it's like, if you use new camera film, you're going to get a much better picture. Now this, pretty much every single one of them I had to turn the shutter speed down on for outside. This was of the dry dock by the USS Constitution. I had to turn the shutter speed up for that. Up, I meant to say, not down. And yet it's such a nice picture. It's like it looks so much better than this one. I don't know what the heck happened with it, but oh no, never mind. I know. When we went to see the USS Constitution, I took a photo. It's kind of much darker than it should be. That's because I think the sun was like, let's say you're where I was when I took the picture. It's like, and like you're looking this way, there's the ship. I think the sun was this way, so it kind of made it look darker. Because like when I took a picture of the Casting Young, which was literally right across from it, it turned out better because I think of the lighting. But it's like, if you use new camera film, you're going to get a much better picture. It's worth the investment. Hancock Street, I took a picture of that. In Salem. So it's just you'll get a much better picture if you spend the extra money and get the camera film new. It's worth it. And so I definitely recommend getting new camera film over getting used camera film. It's way worth it. So thanks for watching this video on photography with dummies.